Alafia family. Alafia. Once again, this is Baba Obanjoko coming to you from the Divine Temple of Truth, your spiritual evolutionary. Today, we're going to be covering the topic of spiritual elevation and alignment. Today, we're going to be covering the topic of spiritual elevation and alignment. Now, we'll jump right into it. For most people, when they think of spiritual elevation or when they think of spiritual alignment, they think of following some type of religious values, interests, or principles, or rules, or guidelines. Thou shalt and thou shalt not. But as you know, here in this study of Ifá Cosmology, universal cosmology, we put spirituality before religion or before man-made beliefs, attitudes, values, or interest. So today we're going to be talking about spirituality or the elevation and alignment, spiritual elevation and alignment from strictly a spiritual perspective. Ashe. So let's go into the best place to start is to grab it from the top. And the top, of course, is where? The top is the divine creator. The divine creator. There is nothing or no one or no discipline or structure that is before the divine creator. The divine creator is that place in which all things originated. And when I say all things, I'm talking about all things originated. You'll sometimes hear people refer to the creator as he or she. Well, the divine creator is neither he nor she. It is all of that and more. Omnipotent, omnipresent, and beyond. All things imaginable by man, woman, boy, or child. So understand that when we talk about elevation and alignment, we're talking specifically about the divine will of that unknown. The divine will of that unknown. Now you might ask, well, Baba, how can you talk about the divine will of something that is unknown? How is it possible to talk about the divine will of something that is unknown? That would be a question. The way that you understand the will of the creator is, remember from other videos, we talked about this, other presentations, you know that will by observation of the creation. That divine creator, that unknown, created everything, all existence. And so all that we can know, all that we can come into the understanding of is, of course, the creation. So this is what our ancestors did. Our ancestors studied creation. And through the studying of creation, they developed or saw or sought to come into harmony with the balance of divine laws. They sought to come into harmony and balance with the divine laws of creation. So this is how our ancient ancestors developed the way in which civilizations were born and developed, was through observation. I'm doing somewhat of a recap on some of the previous presentations that we had, that we've had. But I want you to really understand and get this. Connection to divine source comes from growing into an understanding of the laws, the balance, and the regulation of nature itself. That's all that we have. That's all that we can study. You understand that the foundation of sciences, all of them, not some of them, but the foundation of the sciences comes from the ancient ancestors' observation of nature. That's how all sciences, all mathematics, all logic and physics was developed by our ancient ancestors from Kemet and beyond and before. Our ancient ancestors laid the foundation, and therein we move further into creation. So now let's talk about go into the manifestation, the unlimited possibility of manifestation, the unlimited possibility of manifestation. Although there are laws and there are balances in nature, we have literally no limits. Isn't that amazing? The Creator created creators. Let me say that again. The divine Creator created creators. So we have literally the ability within creation. Let me say that again. Within creation, we have the ability to create unlimitedly. Let me say that again. We have the ability to create anything that we can conceive and believe it can be created. Look at all of the technology. Look at all of the sciences. Look at all of the things that people have created today. And you see that, and we've only scratched the surface. For as far out as we can imagine, we can go. The earth is still, in terms of universal knowledge and wisdom and understanding that there is, we haven't scratched the surface. And let me tell you something, never will scratch the surface, because there's an infinite amount of knowledge and wisdom and understanding within creation for us to continue to grow into the gods that we are. The foundation of creation was brought into existence by the Creator, and we now have the ability to create. Ashe? So let no one or no thing limit your ability to create. We all our bodies consist of vibration. Our body, our mind, our spirit consists of vibration. What controls that vibration? Thought. Thought. So here I'm emphasizing the existence of thought. For what your mind can conceive again, and you can act out on it, draw in personal power by thought. There's an unlimited possibility of creation. We are truly the little g of the big G. We are truly the little g of the big G. For all of creation, not some of creation, is one. All of the creation is one that was brought into existence by the unknown Creator. So when someone, for example, tries to tell you that they know God, run. When someone says, "Oh, I know God, I understand God," I understand. What some people are trying to say when they say that is they understand the laws that they have learned, observed, and that they may live by. But that doesn't mean that they know nothing, no thing, because we all know no thing about that which has created all things. The Big Bang, for example, the Big Bang. Scientists talk about the Big Bang, but now they're going further to say, well, wait a minute, something had to happen before the Big Bang, because the Big Bang wouldn't have been possible. How could we bang if there was nothing there to bang? So now the scientists are beginning to understand that the divine laws of creation, beyond what we may know or have discovered at this time, are infinite. And so too, you, I, and all of creation actually is infinite in terms of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's available. For we are, because I am truly because we are collectively one. So understand my point here, my main point here is that it's an unlimited, your ability to manifest is unlimited. And inherently, there's no such thing as thou shalt and thou shalt not. Is there divine laws? Again, I've just talked about this for 2 or 3 minutes. There is divine law. And it is important for us to physically, mentally, and spiritually come into harmony, understand it, and come into harmony and balance with that, with the divine law, as we observe, not only as our ancestors have observed, but we too have the ability to observe and come into harmony and balance with ourselves and the universe. There may be something that we've never read or never seen or never done. Remember, the same thing that is within you is the same thing that is within the universe. When you look at oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, those are the basic elements that the universe is made of. Those are the same basic elements that are within us. We're over 98% water. This is why when we make incantation or when we say something, we have learned, according to divine laws, that water is impressionable, which means that what you say upon the water means to it. Water balances with it. So when you're drinking your water for medicine, chant into the water, and the water becomes alive with your chant. All things are vibration. All things are from the great mind of vibration. This leads me into the subject of personal will as opposed to divine will. Remember, we're talking about elevation and alignment here today. So when we talk about personal will as opposed to divine will, Ifá says, and when I say Ifá says, I'm talking about universal knowledge of all cosmology. Ifá says that it's a tragedy not to grow into an understanding of divine will versus personal will. Now, the question that you might want to ask at this point is, Baba, what is the difference? What is divine will? What is my personal will? You just told me a few minutes ago that inherently there's no thou shalt and thou shalt not. So what is the difference between divine will and personal will? That goes back to your observation and your connection with source. We see it in the signs. We see patterns, certain things happening at certain times that happen over and over again. For example, the lunar cycle. Pattern. Our ancestors lived on the lunar cycle. Some of our ancestors, even on this side of the water, the old folks, they used to talk about, they knew when to plant. They knew when to cut their hair. They knew what to eat at what time of year. All of those things are sign, symbol, numbers. Look, there's an unlimited possibility there, more than I could ever cover on a presentation such as this one, but go in deeper. Learn about the signs, the symbols, the numbers, about the balance of mind, body, and spirit. Go study that. Go study that. No matter what religion, whether it be orthodox or unorthodox, is going to be talking about fundamentally what the signs, symbols, and numbers have said. You must make that intimate within yourself. Grow into a connection with source. Understand, grow into an understanding of those signs, symbols, and numbers. What does it mean for my body? You can heal sickness. What does it mean for my perspective in life? What does it mean? Am I caught up on values and beliefs and attitudes that aren't consistent with the divine law and balance within my body or within creation? Remember, much of what we know are things that have been indoctrinated by other men and women for purposes of control, domination, out of the level of greed to manifest greed and selfishness. Now, I'm not downing greed or selfishness, because nothing in existence exists without without permission of the divine. So there's nothing that wasn't created by the divine creator. This is why I am saying here at this juncture that our possibility of manifestation is unlimited. Unlimited. Bad, right, good, not so good, or whatever, that's your own impression. But understand there is a such thing as destiny and divine law. And the way that you grow into the understanding of destiny and divine law is by your observation, by your submission, root chakra, by your submission to the divine will of the creator. I'm not talking about all that is within existence. I'm talking about your submission to that which brought all things into existence. This is how we become that's how we go from from wavering in life to a little g, to a manifestation of the God. But again, our possibility is unlimited when we talk about sign, symbol, and number. So now we can see that spiritual elevation and alignment has not so much to do with what we've been taught by other men and women, but our alignment and our elevation comes through our willingness to submit to the connection with divine source. And that which is within us shall speak and balance with us. As our ancestors have always done. Ancestors have always done. They have worked in harmony and balance with the divine laws. And this is where we must go again at this time. People ask, what can we do at this time with all of the turmoil and confusion in the world? Well, we have to go back to source. Understand, this is why I said evolutionary. I am the evolutionary. This is why we must go back to source, regain knowledge of self again. And then we will be able to move forward in harmony and balance. Will life happen? Absolutely. The same evolution, the same laws of life are going to continue. People will get sick, grow old, and what we call die or transcend. There's no such thing as death. Make transition. But all of that is out of normal progression of life and evolution. I say, nothing ever dies. It only transforms. I say, so we too shall transform. Let us each and every day be in the process of making the transformation of life for elevation and alignment. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention for this presentation of elevation and alignment. Is there anyone that is online that has any question, comments, or observation about what has been talked about today? Hello? Is there anyone that has any question?
No questions at the moment.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time and your attention today. Remember to stay in alignment, enlightenment, and elevate. Baba Obanjoko, Divine Temple of Truth, your spiritual evolutionary. Thank you.